As we'll see in later videos, planning your work with a considered approach will help you stay focused. So on day one, we will start by creating test sheets. We will apply masking fluid to different brands of paper using different applicators and make notes about the outcomes and any insights along the way. We will be looking at 4 variables within our test sheets: paper, the type of masking fluid you use, the applicator, and the time it takes to dry. I know it's tempting to walk straight into the fun projects, but you might not be as successful if you don't have the basics under your belt. It's so important that you don't skip the first 2 warm-up days, as they're actually vitally important in order for you to understand which methods and materials will work best for you. Here are my papers that I am going to be testing out for this section of the class. I've cut them to a smaller size. We've got the Archer's, Hahnemuhle, Winsor & Newton, and I've got 2 of each, just because I've got a variety of masking fluids I want to be testing out. Please don't think that you need to go out and buy all of these. It's only because I'm the teacher and I want you guys to know what is available. Don't think you have to go and find these pens. As long as you've got a jar of masking fluid, you're probably going to be fine. And moving on, I've got all my different applicators lined up. Even if you've only got a brush to apply it with, I'm sure you can find some Q-tips, paper clip, and cocktail sticks, and also of course roll up that paper. I also wanted to point out these brushes here. These are my grotty brushes, or they're busted brushes where I've left the masking fluid on so it's completely dried. I've used these over and over, so it's created this really gunky, but you can still apply masking fluid with it, and I'm going to show you how this can be useful. Before we start on the experiment proper, I'm just going to note down the brand of masking fluid I'm going to be using. I'll probably use Pebeo on this upper section, and I'll probably start with a section for the brush, go on to a dip pen here and the silicone applicator, and then maybe the Q-tip and cocktail stick here. Let's pick up my brush and dab a bit into the liquid detergent, and I've got my little bottle of Pebeo. So this is the larger of the 2 brushes I've got lined up for this, and we're just going to make a series of marks. Oh, now that's a strange mark already, because I think that may be caused the amount of washing up liquid on my brush, so that already is something to be mindful of. I'm going to put a little bit less on this smaller brush. Take my dip pen and just do a line or 2. Wash that out. Now take my silicone marker. I don't know why I'm calling it a marker. Is it a silicone applicator, silicone brush? So if you look at this one, it's kind of like a chisel tip. So I can apply it this way around or this way around. I'm going to try both. Oh, that line is very nice, isn't it? Oh, I could have fun with that. Wash that one off. Let's get the Q-tips out. Oh, I find I'm having to press quite hard. You can see they're quite uniform in size. Let's see if I can make slightly smaller ones. Oh, okay, so if I press lighter, get slightly smaller ones, but I think the cotton in the Q-tip is absorbing a lot of that masking fluid. That's good to know. And now the cocktail stick. I forgot to leave room for the paper clip. Oh, that's not really showing up very much. Pick up that unfurled paper clip now. On this lower section, I'm going to try a different masking fluid, I think. Let's try the Jackson's, and we're just going to do the same again. You know what I completely forgot to add was a bit of flicking, so I might do that somewhere along here. I must remember not to put too much washing up liquid on this brush. This might be difficult for you to see because the masking fluid is that little bit neutral. Before I forget, I must write down what I used because I will forget. One thing that I'm already noticing about the Jacksons is it's very thick compared to the Pebeo. Let's try the silicone applicator with this. I'm not sure about that. It might be due to the thickness of it. Moving on to Q-tip. Now that comes on, that is actually easier to apply than the other one. Lovely. The cocktail stick version. Just trying to apply it using the side. You can make some different shapes with that, I suppose. One last thing was the, hold on, let's move this over a tiny bit, is the brush. Now we're going to let this one dry and I'm going to move on to my other sheets. For my second tester sheet, I've got the hot press Hahnemuller, and I thought it might be fun to try out these masking fluid pens. If you haven't got any, don't worry about it, just watch. I'm interested to see what happens as well. So let's start off using this Schminky one. I'm squeezing hard and nothing's coming out. As we discussed in a previous video, this is one of the disadvantages of these pre-made. I'm trying to unblock this little tube in there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to manage it using a cocktail stick. See if this now flows. Oh, yes, it does. Right, I'm not going to leave that there because that's going to take forever to dry. Handy to have kitchen roll. Okay, let's squeeze very gently then this time. Oh, it's a little bit bubbly, which I wasn't expecting. Let's just try to create some lines and circles. Okay, so that's a little bit tricky to control how much comes out. Before I forget, I must write down what this referred to. So next one, we're going to try this Pebeo. It says you shake it up and down and then press down. It's not really flowing. This is a bit gunked up. Sure if it's worth continuing with this one. Right, not quite what I was expecting. I'm going to give up on this one. Next up is the Molotow pump marker. Same again, you shake it. Oh, now that was a bit faster. I'm not sure how this is going to perform. Let's try to cover a bit of an area here. The nib is a little bit gunked up, but not too bad. And the last one is the Goya masking marker. It says it's fine. Shake and push down. Oh, okay. Not sure how much is really coming through. Yeah, maybe I should have done that a little bit more. Right. Again, I'm going to wipe that up because I'm going to be waiting around forever for that otherwise. And this is only a test sheet. Again, I'm just going to quickly write everything down. And this was the Pebeo, which just didn't work at all for me this time around. You might find that it works for you though. That's why it's good to do a test. I wanted to try out these masking fluid pens again on the Winsor & Newton paper. One thing I didn't test out was the Frisk masking liner, and now normally this works out well for me, and it isn't. It is not coming out. Oh my gosh. Right, let's see if this is going to help. It might not seem it, but I am actually quite pleased to show you that I had this issue with the masking fine liner, because this is a problem that many people report to me. What I did was took just a dressmaker's pin and I poked it around, and I managed to free the masking fluid eventually. Victory! Ah, what a relief. First thing that I noticed straight away is how raised it is. It is not flat compared to applying it with a brush, for example. I filled up the rest of the sheet of paper using masking fluid applicator pens. Even though I had used them with different brands of paper, it's always good to compare and contrast and to really understand how your materials work and under what conditions that they will work best or possibly not work at all. Oh, I was just saying, I've got to remember to just squeeze gently, but even squeezing gently, there's a blob. Let's see, once it dries, it might behave in a different way, but I will reserve judgment. The final sheet of paper that I tested out was the handmade paper. The top row was the SAA masking fluid, and I used a mixture of rolled up paper, silicone brush, paintbrush, and also a toothbrush that was splattered. The row underneath was Jackson's masking fluid, and I used the same implements. I did find that this particular paper really soaked up the masking fluid, and I was already thinking, how is this going to come out? We've got the Winsor & Newton paper with the Winsor & Newton masking fluid and the Archer's paper with the Pebeo and some Jacksons. And they've dried quite flat, apart from this one. I think that's where I used the silicone applicator and the Q-tip. Now that they're dry, we're just going to paint over it using the one colour. I'm just going to mix up a green and apply it over all of these. And that's the dip pen section, the silicone section, Q-tip, was it the cocktail stick? Just in case it isn't obvious, I want you to know that I am doing a lot of test sheets just so that I can show you. You absolutely do not need to do 5 or 6 like I'm doing here. Now for the Winsor & Newton paper, I'm just going to use a indigo. Just stick to your 2 or 3 and you will still be able to find out a lot of information about all the different varieties of paper and how it affects your masking fluid. It would be really helpful if you made mental notes or notes on that sheet of paper to let you know at a later date how everything behaved, so that you can come back to it and make informed choices later.